Dardoch has found a new home. The drama, at least for now, continues. But it's interesting, right? Dardoch has signed with Dignitas, has left TSM. We all know about the drama, Lena, double lift. In particular for this story, what Lena said about Dardoch publicly. There's the tweet right there. And now Dardoch joins Tyler, his 17th LCS team?
Yeah. Let's play Dardoch LCS Remembrance Tour here. So 2016, he started with Team Liquid with that rookie trio of Lourlo, Matt, and Dardoch, which almost made the LCS finals, unless, the double TP versus CLG kind of probably still haunts the dreams of many, Dardoch and Lourlo, so close to actually getting over the hump. Then he went to, I believe, CLG. There was the CLG tour. There was the Optic tour. There was the back to the, Team Liquid tour.
Immortals at one point, too.
Immortals is the second team. Immortals with Flame, and it was supposed to be the Flame and Dardoch show, and then that didn't go through, and then he went to CLG, and then there was the Echo Fox tour, and then there was Optic, and then Immortals again. Then we went to TSM, and that was supposed to be his last chance, but it's not his last chance because now he's on Dignitas. And I'm assuredly positive if Dignitas doesn't work out, he will again find his way to one of the teams he's not been on before, because as I've stated many times when talking about Dardoch is that he is an incredible talent. Even last year on TSM, he was still one of the better junglers in the league when you look at statistically, even though his team kind of let him down outside of the early game phase. He still did decently well statistically, and he was a pretty good jungler overall. NA talent doesn't grow on trees, and we've seen this many times. I know we have 100 Thieves who are actually bringing up a lot of really good young talent like Copy and Tenacity, and there are teams like C900 Thieves who are growing the NA amateur scene and, the 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old next men up who are going to be the next stars of the LCS. But currently there's kind of a dry spot, and so that means that Dardoch, who is a really good talent and who outside of the game is actually really liked. It's not like people don't like hanging out with him. He has friends in the LCS. People like to talk to Dardoch. It's just when it comes to in-game moments, he doesn't click with teams, which allows him to get chance after chance. And I really don't blame Dignitas, right? Because what other option are you going to do? You can't import anyone. There's a global pandemic going on. He probably doesn't cost an arm and a leg. He has a great upside if it works out. But as it always is with Dardoch, there's always that great upside, and there's always that great downside if he doesn't work out. And Dignitas, like any other teams, will see if this will be the spot. Maybe this will be the spot. Who knows? Probably not, but who knows?
Emily, will it be the spot?
So I think I've been kind of a pretty big Dardoch apologist over the years. I think there are a couple of things that I'm super curious about. One, I hope he got paid well, because I think if he hadn't found a team, it would have looked even worse for the ongoing TSM saga. But so putting that aside, I'm glad that didn't affect his ability to find a team. I also think there are certain intangibles that Dardoch will always have outside of talent, like the fact that he's an NA resident, that will continue to allow him to get teams as well as his talent. When you look at him with TSM, TSM was supposed to be the last chance for a lot of reasons. And when I say last chance, I don't mean his last chance for a team, but his last chance to be on a winning, super big franchise team, I think is more when people I was actually rereading an interview I did with Josh at the beginning of the season. It's really interesting. And he was pretty forthcoming, and he did talk about how he's this is it, this is my big opportunity, I cannot waste this. And while he'd said that in the past, there was definitely a real sense that this was his kind of last moment to make a statement on one of the larger NA franchises. Because if you look at the big franchises in NA, right, that's what I think we kind of more meant by last chance. How will he do on Dignitas? I don't know. Dignitas had a lot of kind of weird issues. I mean, I think when you saw him on TSM, he was super strong early. I actually thought he was one of the best early game junglers in the LCS. And then TSM mid game, there was this very obvious argument between the two, right? So
I do have a little bit Sorry, I have a little bit of
No, go for
information here that I got after I wrote the article that's on .com exclusively here on Riff Rewind. No, this is not like super big breaking stuff, but nonetheless, I do think that from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like he's for sure going to start all the time. Does sound like that they're going to like rotate him and Acadian and it sounds like they may do that for a lot. Sounds like they may do that for a lot of their positions. Maybe Johnson kind of is the exception to this, is what I've been hearing, is that like he's the only person who won't get some, or like he'll be like the stable starter for Dig in the LCS. But I think every other position, DeMonte and Froggen will swap out time and time. I think Lourlo and I've also heard that they're in the market for another top laner for Academy right now. So I think that like they may pick up another player and swap them and Lourlo frequently. Lourlo will presumably be the starter to start off with Dardoch. Those two guys are well-documented friends. We're close on Team Liquid.
TL,
And so we've seen them play together before. We know that they're good friends. So I definitely see a world where I think that everyone on the team, maybe with the exception of bot lane, will get some time. Like the top side of the map will be rotating, depending on how they perform. So I think Dardoch will certainly like be there, and I don't know how that will work. I mean, I don't think anybody has big expectations, right? Like,
can I ask you one
I
thing?
mean, I think you have to have a really good team infrastructure to be able to make that work well.
Do we know what's happening? Do we know what's happening with top lane for Dignitas?
Yeah, so Lourlo is presumably the starter, is everything I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was Dignitas Academy. Huni is gone.
Right.
And so Huni's off the team. I think that they actually straight up cut him, which means that they paid out some large sum to do that because part of his contract was guaranteed. So I think I'm sure Huni will find a new team this offseason in some form just because he's already in NA, he already has a visa. It's not that hard to transfer it from one organization to another. But that said, I think that Lourlo will be the starter, and that they are probably going to find another top laner to rotate out with Lourlo, who will presumably be an NA resident. Yeah,
that's interesting because if you're Dardoch, like I guess a part of you, Emily, is happy that you found a team, but then you're coming into this situation where nobody's job is safe, and you know what I mean? Like it's going to be a crapshoot every single week. You could have different rosters every single week. Like you're going to be mixing and matching different players each week. It seems very unstable.
I don't doubt that Dardoch still really wants to do well. Like I feel like people automatically fall into this thing where it's like, well, it's just lip service, whatever. Everyone always says they want to do well. Like I actually don't think anyone is lying when they're like, I really want to do well, I'm like very hungry for it. I think the thing maybe reuniting with Lourlo will help, but I think the thing that I've seen with rotating lineups, even the most successful ones, to which I'd probably point to We'll Never Give Up in 2018 for most of the year, and then the San Francisco Shock last year. It requires like a really steady, stable team infrastructure coming from the top down, making sure that all of these very hungry, talented players are not getting hurt because they're quote unquote benched, right? Like I think it's a very difficult thing to do. And I think it's a very difficult thing to do for more than like, I don't think we've even seen it be successful in esports for more than like a year, if that.
I also just want to, can I address what Chad is saying, like what will happen with Huni? I don't think he's going to carry that contract baggage with him anymore wherever he ends up. It sounds like based off what I know, like he'll sign a new contract wherever he lands. So which will presumably be less than the $2.3 million deal he signed previously. I think that Dignitas paid out a significant portion of that deal so yeah, I think that's where we're at right now.
We're comparing apples and oranges when it comes to the rotating roster. This is actually what Dignitas should be doing. Let's not pretend here that this Dignitas lineup, if they had 5 starters who were confirmed playing throughout, this team isn't winning Worlds. They're not going to Worlds more than likely unless a miracle happens. So what should they be doing? As a smart team, and this is what we've been saying forever when it comes to franchising, is that you're franchised. You're not losing your spot. Be able to play flexible, be able to adapt, be able to check out new talent. And I think this is perfectly fine. Dignitas just cut their franchise player, and they probably spent a lot of money just to, get him to go away. So they're not in the position to be competing for Worlds. From what Jacob is saying, they say that they're looking at Johnson as their future, which they should. He's a very good young talent, probably on a cheap contract. And then you test out the rest of the roster and you find who on this roster you bring into 2021. I think the idea of like comparing them to San Francisco Shockers, saying that they want to be successful this split, is very short focused.
I mean, I'm not comparing them to them. I'm using those as examples of literally the only time this has ever worked. But you're saying success in this function is to actually win. I don't think Dignitas should be looking to win.
I
don't think I agree with you, but I don't think LCS teams see it that way, especially based on what I've seen from their roster building previously. So Dignitas can prove me wrong, but I don't ever think that an LCS team, when they're doing a rotating roster like this, isn't just like, okay, let's at least eke it into playoffs.
But I'm not saying they're trying to eke into playoffs. I'm saying if what Jacob's saying is correct, and that the only person that they're not rotating out is Johnson, and then they're going to be flexible of everyone else, that's intelligent. That's what they should be doing. That's what every team who's at the bottom of the table, who, you just paid out your biggest star to leave the team after you gave him a ridiculous contract that he negotiated for himself. You're not looking to eke into playoffs. You're not looking to go to Worlds. You're looking to find what pieces you take into 2021, and you have Johnson, who's confirmed, who's a very good young player, and now you find the rest. If Dardoch works out, if Dardoch and Johnson have a really good relationship, you bring Dardoch to 2021. If Lourlo has a resurgence with Dardoch, you bring them into 2021. So if Dignitas actually does what it believes what Jacob's saying is that they're looking to find pieces around Johnson, this is exactly what they should be doing. They should not be trying to look for short-sighted.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying I haven't seen an LCS team actually have an attitude yet.
I just want to say one thing, by the way.
Okay.
I think that the goal is not even that deep for Dig. I think the goal right now is business survival. Like, and how you do that is you don't really here's the thing, right? We have talked about this at length in previous episodes that Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, their parent company, has noted financial problems because of what's happening in basketball, what's happening in hockey, right? We have yet to see, although there seems to be plans.
Coming back, by the way. Hockey is making a return.
I was about to say, we see the NBA and the NHL trying to take steps to allow for hockey and basketball to return, but certainly they've lost millions, tens of millions, presumably, dollars of revenue. Right? Every sports team has. And this organization owns the New Jersey Devils and the Philadelphia 76ers, two fairly successful teams in their home markets, right? So I think that at this point, it's survive and not spend a crap ton of money. They had to pay something to get rid of Huni. He had partial guarantees in his contract, right?
Sure.
And it was a really big contract. But I think at this point, it's about survive, right? Just make it through this year, make it through coronavirus. However you got to do that. And I think that that's the most important thing for them now, rather than being the most competitive LCS team. They're not going to be.
They're forced to do being smart stuff. So
I just want to make one final point, and we have a lot to get into on this program. By the way, we're going to talk midseason cup. We're even going to do a fantasy draft surrounding the midseason cup. That's the second half of the program. Something to look forward to. To me, this sucks for Dardoch in a way. He found a team, good for him, right? But remember, last week we were talking about how he was severely limited in his options because of what was leaked by what Lena said, right? His leverage was gone. We were talking about how he was in a bad position. And it makes me wonder how many teams cooled off on him after that happened. And not only that, now he comes to a team that, like you all said, lacks identity, doesn't even know which players are going to be there. And he's this veteran player that's already been on 6 or 7 LCS teams. And now he's coming into a situation that's probably the most uncertain in the entire LCS. It's not, I don't see, I'd love to know how he turns this into a positive. Just maybe the fact that he's playing in the LCS despite everything that happened, Emily. I don't know. I think this is a crappy situation for Dardoch.
I mean, I've said this on this program. I've said this on my LPL show. I never want players to go out and do badly, right? Ideally, I just want to see everyone play at their best, and then whoever loses, loses, and whoever wins, wins, right?
Also, presumably, Dardoch's cost wasn't, because of what happened, was presumably pretty low, right?
You think he took a haircut because of those comments?
I don't think he took a haircut. I think TSM took a haircut on their buyout.
Okay.
So, like, I don't think when you have something, when you have an executive of your team say something like that, right? Like, and it's overheard on a hot mic, right? Like, how are you going to argue for a big buyout in any sort of regard? Like, he probably came pretty cheap.
That's really BS.
That's unfortunate.
I'm just throwing it out there. I know I ranted about this on the show, so I won't rant about it here, but that's BS. It's not fair, and someone should have stood up for him.